This is fluid coding and AI. Anthropic launched Claude Fable 5 and Claude Mythos 5, then days later said a US government directive forced access offline. The story is bigger than one model launch. It is about export controls, jailbreak risk, developer reliability, and who gets to decide when a frontier model must disappear. The timeline is unusually compressed. Anthropic launched Fable 5 and Mythos 5 on June 9, 2026. On June 12 at 5:21 p.m. Eastern, Anthropic says it received a U.S. government export control directive. The directive, as Anthropic describes it, required suspension of access to both models by foreign nationals, including foreign national Anthropic employees, whether they were inside or outside the United States. There is one major caveat. The public source base does not include the government directive itself. No public Commerce Department or BIS copy was found in the research pass, so the legal details, the exact authority, and the government's full evidence are not public here. What we have is Anthropic's statement, product documentation, the system card, cloud documentation, and secondary reporting. Fable and Mythos were not two random chatbots. They were two deployment surfaces for the same underlying model family. Fable was the broader product version, with safeguards designed to block or route away high-risk cyber, biological, and chemistry behavior. Mythos was the gated version, built for vetted partners working in cybersecurity and life sciences research, where those safeguards could limit legitimate defensive work. For developers, the attraction was obvious. Claude API release notes described Fable 5 as Anthropic's most capable widely released model, and Mythos 5 as a Project Glasswing model. Both launched with a 1 million token context window, a 128,000 token maximum output, and always on adaptive thinking. That combination points at long coding sessions, agentic repo work, large security investigations, and research workflows that need sustained context. Anthropic's first-party system card showed very strong benchmark results, but the scope matters. On SWE Bench Pro, Mythos 5 scored 80.3 and Fable 5 scored 80.0. On SWE Bench Verified, Mythos was listed at 95.5 and Fable at 95.0. Those are coding suite claims from Anthropic's report, not an independent universal ranking of all real-world development work. The sensitive part was not nicer prose or better autocomplete. AWS documentation described Mythos 5 as Anthropic's most capable model for cybersecurity and life sciences, including vulnerability discovery, drug design, and biodefense screening, with access limited because of dual-use risk. Anthropic's Glasswing work had already expanded to about 150 organizations in more than 15 countries after early partners found more than 10,000 high or critical severity flaws. Anthropic says the government concern appeared to involve a way to bypass or jailbreak Fable 5. Anthropic also says the example found only a small number of previously known minor software vulnerabilities and that other public models could find them without the bypass. At the same time, Anthropic says no provider can promise perfect jailbreak resistance. That is the uncomfortable middle, narrow evidence, real risk category, and no absolute safety proof. The directive, as Anthropic describes it, targeted foreign national access. That matters because export control law can treat controlled technology released to a foreign person inside the United States as an export to that person's country of nationality. That is background, not proof of the exact legal theory here. But it explains why geography alone did not solve the problem. Anthropic says the practical result was disabling both models for all customers. For builders, this looks like a new failure mode. An agent stack can lose its flagship model for reasons unrelated to uptime, billing, or a normal terms of service violation. If an application called Claude Fable 5 or Claude Mythos 5 directly, the safe engineering response is fallback routing, capability tests, and budget recalibration. Anthropic said other Claude models were unaffected, so Opus 4.8 or another approved Claude model becomes the practical fallback. Fable 5 already shipped with unusual integration behavior. Refused requests could return a structured refusal reason, and beta fallback could rerun refused requests on another model. It also required 30-day data retention on the Claude API and was not available under zero data retention. That trade-off makes sense if Anthropic needs monitoring for novel misuse, but it is hard for regulated teams, source code-heavy workflows, and privacy-sensitive enterprises. Cloud access did not make the dependency independent. AWS Bedrock documentation listed Mythos 5 with the same 1 million token context, 128,000 token output, and provider data sharing requirements. But if the underlying provider is legally forced to suspend access, a hyperscaler listing cannot guarantee continuity. The cloud marketplace can make procurement easier. It cannot make a restricted model legally untouchable. There are two defensible instincts here. One says that if a model materially uplifts cyber offense, biosecurity risk, or vulnerability weaponization, the government needs an emergency brake. The other says an opaque stop order based on evidence the public cannot inspect can punish defensive users and turn safety reviews into policy kill switches. Anthropic says it supports blocking unsafe deployments but only through a transparent, fair, technically grounded process. The practical takeaway is boring, but important. Treat frontier models like regulated dependencies, not just APIs. Keep a fallback model list. Test degraded workflows before you need them. Know whether your vendor requires data retention. Understand whether nationality, residency, employer policy, or cloud region can affect access. And for security teams, separate defensive capability from model availability. If the best model disappears, the vulnerability program still has to run. My verdict is that the precedent matters even if Fable 5 and Mythos 5 return quickly. This episode makes one thing visible. Frontier model availability is no longer just a product question. It is a legal, geopolitical, safety, and infrastructure question. For developers, the lesson is not panic. It is architecture. Assume the most capable model in your stack can become unavailable for reasons your code cannot see. If this helped you understand the Fable and Mythos shutdown, like the video and subscribe to Fluid Coding and AI. We covered the developer side of AI models, safety policy, and the engineering choices that still matter when the policy layer moves fast.